Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts. And today we're going to be talking about this special plant before you here. Now we're going to pan and scan up and down. Oh, look at that lovely pot. Now this plant doesn't look like much yet because it was repotted about maybe 2 weeks ago tops from a plastic pot into this lovely container it's in. Now, what is this plant here, this mystery herb? Well, firstly, it's not an herb, technically, because you can't use it for anything but flowers. But its scientific name is Ruellia simplex, commonly known as Mexican Petunia. Now, some of you have heard of this one, I'm sure. It is in the family Acantheaceae, and the word Ruellia does not come from Latin or Greek, or in the case of, when we're talking horehound, it doesn't come from Hebrew. It comes from the name Jean Ruel, a French botanist. Now, you're going to find that a lot of plants in the industry are named for people. Not all sources are upfront about this being named for people things, so it can be a problem finding this stuff out, but Mexican Petunia was easy this time. Now, it is native to Mexico, the West Indies, western Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and northeastern Argentina. So it is native to the quote-unquote New World, which is nice. It is hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, where for the most part, it's considered an evergreen perennial. However, if it gets hit with a frost, it'll die back to the ground and resprout from the rootstock. So that is a bonus. So thus, it could become herbaceous, and those of us in Zone 8A in Kakalaki are known for having random cold winters. I mean, the last one that hit that I can recall was in 2010. If not 2009, where it was just suddenly, boom, 20 degrees, and nobody knew what to do. There were snowstorms and all kinds of craziness happening, and people were driving and losing their minds, and, well, that would be when this would go herbaceous. Beyond that, it's not selective on the soil pH it gets, though I haven't really tested it in high alkaline or low acid, because who wants to contaminate soil like that, really? Not me! But anyway, its exposure is full to partial sun, which I can verify when I tested. This is a new specimen purchased this year, but I had 3 specimens out in the test gardens, and I'm going to say this, in the sandhills where it's crusty and dry and sandy, you're going to have to water this thing a bunch, which is why this one's in a pot this time. As a pot plant, I imagine, as a plant in a container, some of y'all got really excited, didn't you? As a plant in a container, I imagine it would be far easier to take care of this and keep its lush growth and then move it up to a bigger container and do the whole container plant boogaloo. But its height can be 1 foot to 3 feet, which, as you can see, this specimen is probably pushing 14 inches at this point, maybe 16. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't measured it. And its width can be 1 foot to 1.5 feet per cluster. So this plant individually will get to 18 inches. So that's 9 inches on center off this stem in all directions. Oh, bit of landscaping note. In terms of gardening terminology, when someone says its spread is 18 inches, as I just said, that means you have the center of the plant and then 9 inches on all sides, which is called on center. You imagine all plants will, given the chance, spread in a uniform, equal direction in all directions. However, the angle of sun, the slope of the ground, and other factors can play havoc with that, and they'll try to do that naturally relative to all these difficulties. So there's that. Now, we move on to the other segment of this program. Alternative names for this plant include Ruellia angustifolia, which, considering its current one, which is simplex, angustifolia just means the same thing. It means that the leaves are roughly elliptical shaped and have a basic ovate form. They're more long than they are wide. Well, angustifolia means about the same thing, really. I mean, there's some, technically, English lavender is Lavandula angustifolia because it has similar leaves, but simplex in this case means that the leaves are simple. There are no spiky margins to talk about. There's no weird stuff going on, which, as you can see, is the case. Now, there's also Ruellia tweediana, Ruellia bretoniana, Ruellia coeralia, It's a weird word. And oh, here's the big one. Cryphicanthus angustifolia. These are all alternative names for this exact same plant. Simplex, Ruellia simplex is the current name, and it's straightforward and to the point as it should be. For once, the horticulturists or the agronomists got it right. Woo! Unlike that last time. Scutteroides. Anyway, here's the problem with this plant. Oh, well, actually, before I go into the problems with this plant, I should point out that it's also other common names other than Mexican Petunia, which is the commonly accepted one, is Mexican Bluebell and Britain's Wild Petunia, which is where Britoniana came from in the scientific specific epithets. But anyway, the problem with this plant is that it's considered invasive in Florida, and that's because Florida is very warm and is pretty much a big swamp for the most part. And so inevitably that's near a body of water, there's plenty of ground moisture, this thing done did gone wild. There are stands of it that are practically shrubs, which I'd love to see that level of horticultural failure, but so that's why I say don't plant it near bodies of water if you can avoid it. Or pick a variety like Purple Showers, which supposedly has sterile seed and therefore cannot spread except through vegetative growth, which severely limits its spread. Now, if you have an infestation of this, I have some good and some bad news. Assuming you can dig the roots and eliminate it that way, that is a viable option. The unfortunate other option is herbicide, which is very effective against Ruellia. It's quite sensitive to basic over-the-counter herbicide, so there is that. You can get this stuff under control right quick. And then, I guess if you're into organic, leave that area fallow for a little while and to let the stuff leach out and then move on. Now, the flower color range for Ruellia is blue, pink, and white, but Purple Showers is a deep purple color, and there are tubed versions that look more like actual petunias, which it is often confused for. Ruellia is, or at least Ruellia simplex anyway, is noted as being non-toxic to people and pets, which is a good thing. However, supposedly the flowers can be eaten by tortoises and turtles, so it should be fairly safe for you to eat. However, as with anything, any unknown quandary involving herbs, I always recommend trying a little bit first, waiting a certain amount of time and seeing if you have a reaction to it, and then increasing the dosage to verify that it does not harm you. There's a whole thing about testing for allergy reactions, like, you eat a little bit and you wait an hour, and then you eat a little more and you wait an hour. And if you don't turn into a giant blueberry and then get harvested by the Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka's factory, you're fine. If you do get harvested by the Oompa Loompas, I want film. I want to put that on YouTube. I must have. I digress. Anyway. Now, Acantheaceae is a family that doesn't ring a bell. Or does it? Ruellia is in this family, and it's actually, via that fact, related to nerve plant, which is a Phytonia, a common house plant, polka dot plant, which is known as Hypoestes, and is also a very common house plant, black-eyed Susan vine, which its scientific name is Thunbergia, which you can buy the seed in seed racks every spring, so that's a known quandary, and Persian shield, which is Strobilanthes, also a common plant grown as an annual. So it's in good company. I don't know if any of those are edible or not, but now you know. And, of course, I'm going to end this episode with just one thought about growing this in 8A, at least. First and foremost, it needs water fairly regularly, much like the coleus. It's going to get tall, but it's not a standalone plant. Now, in this case, I put it in a blue pot because this variety has deep blue flowers, which also fits in with the petunia theme for the year. The ones in hanging baskets have, you guessed it, two-tone deep blue flowers. Now, I also put it in the pot because I want to see if I can get it to grow more vigorously if it's cared for above and beyond traditional garden plants. Because, I mean, I have to pay attention to it. It's in a pot. But it's more of an experiment to see what I can do with Ruellia in 1 year. The soil mix is pretty standard, and it seems to take standard garden soil fine as long as it gets regular water. It does respond to fertilizer. As you can see, this plant has grown in size and is aggressively blooming, which is great. It's not in bloom at the moment, but it's got buds up here. You can see them there. Buds. As far as I know, I don't know... Stick of Destiny fell on the floor. Anyway, as far as I know, as far as I can tell, I don't know what pollinates it, or if it even needs a pollinator. But if it attracts a pollinator, yay! And I think that summarizes pretty much everything I know about the Ruellia here. If you have any comments, questions, or perhaps you want to know where you can get them in North Carolina, leave a comment in the comments section below. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit the like button. And as always, folks, keep them growing. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching.